Hawaii governor set to sign gay marriage bill into law. Hawaii was poised to become the 15th U.S. state to extend marriage rights to gay and lesbian couples on Wednesday, with the governor expected to sign a bill legalizing same-sex matrimony a day after it won a final nod from lawmakers. The measure, set to take effect on December 2nd, rolls back a 1994 statute defining marriage as a union between a man and a woman in a state long popular as a wedding and honeymoon destination. The measure gained final approval from the Democratic-controlled legislature with a 19-4 vote in the state Senate on Tuesday, just 15 days after the start of a special session called by Governor Mel Abercrombie to consider the bill. Aides to Abercrombie, a first-term Democrat who served more than 2 decades in the U.S. Congress before running for governor in 2010, said he was likely to sign the measure into law on Wednesday morning. Illinois General Assembly beat Hawaii lawmakers to a punch by a week, giving final approval to a same-sex marriage bill on November 5th. But Illinois Governor Pat Keene is not expected to sign that measure until later this month. The path to legal gay marriage in Hawaii has been long and bumpy. The state Supreme Court ruled 20 years ago that bearing same-sex nuptials was discriminatory, in a landmark opinion that advanced the cause of gay marriage nationwide but sparked a backlash that has until now kept matrimony limited to heterosexual couples in Hawaii. President Barack Obama, who was born in Hawaii, hailed passage of the bill in a statement on Tuesday. "Whenever freedom and equality are affirmed, our country becomes stronger," said Obama, the first U.S. president to support gay marriage. By giving loving gay and lesbian couples the right to marry if they choose, Hawaii exemplifies the values we hold dear as a nation. Amended in the State House of Representatives last week to strengthen exemptions for clergy and religious groups. The measure easily cleared the Senate with the body's long Republican joining 3 Democrats in opposing it. 2 other Democrats were absent. The House had passed the bill 30-19, with the support of just one of that chamber's 7 Republicans. 13 Democrats voted against it. Momentum grows. The move to lift Hawaii's ban on same-sex marriage comes at a time of growing momentum for gay rights in the courts, at the ballot box, and in state houses across the United States. The trend has gained steam since the U.S. Supreme Court ruled in June that married same-sex couples are eligible for federal benefits, striking down a key part of the 1996 Federal Defense of Marriage Act. In a separate ruling the same day, the court paved the way for legalized gay marriage in California. The justices stopped short in both 5-4 decisions of declaring a nationwide right to same-sex marriage. Proponents and opponents of gay marriage have vowed to continue their battle state by state. A Hawaii state court judge last week refused a request from opponents for a temporary restraining order to block action on the legislation, but said he would examine the constitutionality for the bill once it was enacted. Allowing gays to marry has been vehemently opposed in Hawaii by religious conservatives as elsewhere in the country. Supporters say the Hawaii bill was crafted to address concerns that legalizing same-sex marriage would infringe on religious freedoms. The bill explicitly exempts clergy from having to perform gay weddings if doing so would conflict with their religious beliefs. In 2003, Massachusetts became the first U.S. state to permit gay marriage, and as of a year ago, 5 more states and the District of Columbia had done so. That number has since more than doubled, mostly due to litigation over the issue. 3 states, Maine, Maryland, and Washington, became the first to extend marriage rights to same-sex couples by popular vote with passage of ballot initiatives last November. Last month, New Jersey Governor Chris Christie dropped his legal opposition to gay marriage, making his state the 14th to legalize same-sex weddings. Food allergy awareness heads to President's desk. The deaths of 2 girls in Illinois and Virginia from severe food allergies have helped spur efforts to get schools to stockpile emergency medications that can save lives. That effort has now reached the highest level, President Barack Obama's desk. The president was expected to sign a bipartisan bill that offers a financial incentive to states if schools stockpile epinephrine. Considered the first-line treatment for people with severe allergies, the medication is administered by injection through preloaded EpiPens or similar devices. Several states have passed or are considering bills that also aim to stock epinephrine in schools, primarily in nurse offices, and late last month, the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention issued its first guidelines to schools on how to protect kids with food allergies. The guidelines, which are voluntary, ask schools to take steps to restrict common foods that cause allergic reaction and to make epinephrine available. Everything is moving in the direction which adheres to our mission, which is to keep kids safe and included in schools, said John Lair, and the chief executive officer of the Food Allergy Research and Education Advocacy Organization. Epinephrine can be used for severe allergic reactions called anaphylaxis to food as well as insect bites, latex, and medication. Policies vary by school, district, and state about the handling of epinephrine and access to high allergy risk foods. Some schools have lunch tables that are peanut-free, for example. The epinephrine stockpiling is aimed primarily at children who have previously undiagnosed allergies or as a backup for those with known allergies. Most people are very accepting, but you still have those people who are very skeptical who haven't seen an anaphylactic reaction and don't understand, said Sally Porter, a mother in Sammamish Wash, whose 10-year-old son has a severe peanut allergy. She and her husband had to call paramedics to their house when their son was 1 after he broke out in hives and had other symptoms right after consuming peanut butter. I think we're coming into a new time when people are going to understand and they're going to get it. And it's sad these children are dying who don't have to be dying, Porter said. There's a way to save them. Just by having these medicine there is so easy. About 1 in 20 U.S. children have food allergies, a 50% increase from the late 1990s according to a recent CDC survey. The deaths of Caitlin Carlson, 13, in a Chicago school in 2010, and of Amaria Johnson, 7, in a Chesterfield Country school in 2012 raised awareness of the dangers of food allergies. But even before then, a grassroots group of parents had lobbied school districts, state leaders, and Congress for help. House Democratic Whip Steny Hoyer's 11-year-old granddaughter, Alexa, has a severe peanut allergy and had to be taken twice to the emergency room as a young child. He co-sponsored the House bill along with Rep. Bill Rowe, R10. We think it's a very positive step in raising awareness, but I must say I think school systems all over the country are becoming better and better educated on the risks that food allergies pose to their students, Hoyer said. Children with known food allergies often have doses of epinephrine stored at schools specifically for them. The epinephrine stockpile is not meant to replace that. Stacy Science of Chappaqua, New York, has lobbied in New York State Legislature for passage of a bill that requires all teachers to be trained to recognize anaphylaxis and to administer epinephrine. It's for her own 6-year-old son who has multiple food allergies, as well as his friends, she said. Knowing that their life would be saved, I think it's wonderful because a lot of his friends are trying foods for the first time at school, she said. Already Pittsburgh-based Mylan Inc., which markets the distributes EpiPens, said has distributed free EpiPens to more than 30,000 schools to use in case of an emergency. It has a program called EpiPen for Schools that donates. One unintended consequence of state laws that have encouraged stocking epinephrine in schools is that some parents of children with severe allergies are no longer sending their kids to schools with the self-injectable epinephrine prescribed to them, said Dr. Todd Marr, an allergist in La Crosse Wise, who's chairman of the American Academy of Pediatrics section on allergy and immunology. He said it's essential that medical providers and parents be educated about the new laws so that they understand that even when epinephrine is stocked in schools, these kids need to be protected throughout the school day on school buses, on field trips, and at sporting events. Rice looted in Philippines amid aid shortage. Thousands of people stormed a rice warehouse on an island devastated by Typhoon Haiyan, authorities said Wednesday, highlighting the urgent need to get water, food, and medical supplies into an increasingly desperate region. 5 days later, one of the strongest tropical storms on record leveled tens of thousands of houses in the central Philippines. Relief operations were only starting to pick up pace, with two more airports in the region reopening, allowing for more aid flights. But minimal food and water was reaching people in the devastated city of Tacloban on Leyte Island, which bore the brunt of the storm, and outlying regions due to a lack of trucks and blocked roads. There's a bit of logjam, to be absolutely honest, getting stuff in here, said Sebastian Rose Dempa from the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs. You've had quite a lot of security coming in over the last couple of days, less so other things. So then it gets here and then we're going to have a real challenge with logistics in terms of getting things out of here, into town, out of town, into the other areas, he said from the airport in Tacloban. The reason for that essentially is that there are no trucks, the roads are all closed. In the first reported deaths as a result of looting, 8 people were crushed to death Tuesday when a wall collapsed as they and thousands of others stormed a rice warehouse on Leyte Island, said National Food Authority spokesman Rex Estopoulos. The looters in Alakahlang municipality carted away up to 100,000 sacks of rice, he said. Since the storm, people have broken into homes, malls, and garages. When they are stripped the shelves of food, water, and other goods. Authorities have struggled to stop the looting. There have been unconfirmed reports of armed gangs involved in some instances. Police were working to keep order across the ravaged wasteland, and 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. curfew was in place. "We have restored order," said Carmelo Espina Valmoria, director of the Philippine National Police Special Action Force. "There has been looting for the last 3 days, but the situation has stabilized." U.S. Brigadier Paul Kennedy said that later Wednesday his troops will install equipment at Tacloban Airport to allow planes to land at night. Tacloban, a city of 220,000, was almost completely destroyed in Friday's typhoon, and has become the main relief hub. "You are not just going to see Marines and a few planes and some helicopters," Kennedy said. "You will see the entire Pacific Command respond to this crisis." A Norwegian ship carrying supplies left from Manila, while an Australian Air Force transport plane took off from Canberra carrying a medical team. British and American Navy vessels are also en route to the region. At the damaged airport in Tacloban, makeshift clinics have been set up and thousands of people were looking for a flight out. A doctor here said supplies of antibiotics and anesthetics arrived Tuesday for the first time. "Until then, patients had to endure the pain," said Dr. Victoriano Zambale. At least 580,000 people have been displaced by the disaster. In some places, tsunami-like storm surge swept up to 1 mile inland, causing more destruction and loss of life. Most of the death and destruction appears concentrated on the islands of Samar and Leyte. The damaged infrastructure and bad communications links made a conclusive death toll difficult to estimate. The official toll from a national disaster agency rose to 2,275 on Wednesday. President Benigno Aquino III told CNN in a televised interview that the toll could be closer to 2,000 or 2,500, lower than an earlier estimate from two officials on the ground who said they feared as many as 10,000 might be dead. "There is a huge amount that we need to do. We have not been able to get into the remote communities," UN humanitarian chief Valerie Amos said in Manila, launching an appeal for $301 million to help the more than 11 million people estimated to be affected by the storm. Even in Tacloban, because of the debris and the difficulties with logistics and so on, we have not been able to get in the level of supply that we would want to. "We are going to do as much as we can to bring in more," she said. Her office said she planned to visit the city. Relief officials said comparing the pace of this operation to those in past disasters was difficult. In Indonesia, Aceh, the worst-hit region by the 2004 tsunami, relief hubs were easier to set up than in Tacloban. The main airport there was functioning 24 hours a day within a couple of days of the disaster, while devastation in much of the city of Banda Aceh was total. Large inland parts of the city were undamaged, providing a base for aid operations and temporary accommodations for homeless. Typhoon highlights weak Philippine infrastructure. Under a reforming president, the Philippines emerged as a rising economic star in Asia, but the trail of death and destruction left by Typhoon Haiyan has highlighted a key weakness: fragile and patchy infrastructure after decades of neglect and corruption. Authorities fear that the storm that tore through Leyte province in the country's east has killed thousands. More than 600,000 people have been displaced. Low rates of insurance in the Philippines mean the disaster is likely to sap government finances, but analysts say it might not slow growth significantly because of the small role the affected region plays in the wider economy. Haiyan's devastation, however, underlines the pressing need to spend more money to build hard assets, such as more roads, ports, and power lines, not only to improve living standards, but also to better withstand the storms, earthquakes, and other natural disasters that strike the country with numbing regularity. The Philippines has the lowest percentage of paved roads when compared with neighbors Indonesia, Malaysia, Vietnam, Thailand, and Singapore, according to data compiled by foreign business groups in the Philippines in 2010. It also had the worst scores in other key indicators such as fixed phone lines, households with power and electricity lost in transmission. "It's hard to prepare for the worst storm in the world," said HSBC economist Trinh Nguyen. "But at the same time, one of the issues now is there isn't a way to access these places that are severely hit. The roads are not there." The Philippines is the country that's most at risk to natural hazards, according to UK-based risk analysis firm Maplecroft. The country loses $1.6 billion a year on average each year because of such disasters. According to the Asian Development Bank, Haiyan, likely the most powerful storm on record, was just one of 20 typhoons that hit the country each year and arrived as it was still recovering from a 7.2 magnitude quake in October that killed 220. Despite the challenges posed by natural disasters, President Benigno Aquino III has managed to steer the economy into one of Asia's fastest growing, raising hopes that millions would be pulled out of poverty. Quarterly growth has risen as high as 7.8% this year, outpacing China, reflecting improved finances. Moody's, Standard and Poor's, and Fitch have all given the country an investment-grade credit rating, allowing the government to borrow money more cheaply for big projects. Aquino, who took office in 2010, pledging to root out corruption and reduce poverty, launched an ambitious effort to improve the country's inadequate infrastructure. He set a goal of boosting infrastructure spending to 5% of the economy by 2016. That's about double the average of 2.5% over past decades, which substantially lagged other countries in the region, according to a joint report by foreign business chambers. Aquino's goal amounts to about $20 billion a year, said John Forbes, an advisor to the American Chamber of Commerce. Targeting that, frankly, even funding it is the easy part. Actually spending it is more of a challenge, said John Forbes, a senior advisor to the American Chamber of Commerce. Aquino's plan included partnering with private companies on some projects out of 47 public works in that pipeline. Only one is partly complete, a plan to build about 9,400 classrooms able to withstand earthquakes, typhoons, and floods. Progress has been slowed by efforts to eliminate corruption. In 2011, Aquino scrapped or reconsidered $2 billion in foreign-funded infrastructure projects that he said had inflated costs or technical problems. The projects were signed under predecessor Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, who is embroiled by corruption and election-fixing allegations. They included a $430 million Belgian project to dredge a lake on the southern edge of Manila that involved moving silt from one section to another. Aquino also ordered the renegotiation of a $276 million French port building project and the custody of a Chinese-financed